Picture this: a 75-year-old man sitting alone in his quiet living room in a small town outside Denver, Colorado. The soft glow of a lamp casts shadows on the walls, and the clock ticks past midnight. He's doing something he's done countless times before, something private, familiar, even comforting. But that night, something went terribly wrong. He didn't just lose control of his body. He lost a piece of himself, a spark of vitality that would never return. And here's the shocking truth. It wasn't because he was masturbating. It was because of how he was doing it and what he didn't know. Yes, masturbation in older age can silently erode the very parts of your health you're fighting to protect. Your energy, your confidence, your sense of self. Unless you understand the truths I'm about to share. I'm Dr. William Clark, a men's health specialist with over 35 years of experience guiding men over 60 through the most sensitive, often unspoken chapters of their lives. I've worked with thousands of men, fathers, grandfathers, veterans, widowers, and I've seen the toll that silence takes when they're left in the dark about their sexual health. I don't just speak as a doctor. I speak as a man who's watched my own generation age, struggle, and quietly wonder, is this still okay? Am I hurting myself? The hard truth is that most men continue masturbating the same way they did in their 20s, but after 60, your body, brain, and heart don't work the same. What once felt like a release can become a slow drain on your strength, your clarity, even your joy. So why is this topic so rarely discussed? Why do men carry these habits for decades, unaware of the price they're paying? In this video, I'm going to reveal 5 critical secrets about masturbation that every older man deserves to know. Truths that can protect your prostate, boost your circulation, and keep you sexually vibrant, safe, and fulfilled well into your 70s, 80s, and beyond. These aren't warnings to scare you. They're tools to empower you. Knowledge is power, and it's never too late to take back control of your body and your life. Stick with me until the end, because the final secret could be the key to how long you stay healthy, independent, and sexually capable. This is something most doctors won't tell you, but after watching, you'll wish someone had shared it sooner. Let's dive in. Before we begin, make sure you've subscribed and hit the bell icon so you never miss another honest, science-backed conversation about your health, intimacy, and independence after 60. If this topic resonates with you, type 1 in the comments to let me know you're with me. If it's not for you, type 0. Your feedback helps me focus on what matters most to you. Secret 1. Your erection isn't the whole story, and that's okay. There's a moment in every older man's life when he notices his body doesn't respond the way it used to. The blood flow is slower, the sensations are softer, and what once felt effortless now demands patience, focus, and sometimes frustration. For many, this sparks a quiet panic, a voice inside whispering, "Something's wrong with me. I'm not a man anymore." But here's the first secret no one ever told you. Your erection is not the whole story, and that's perfectly okay. Our generation grew up with a narrow definition of sexual success. Hardness equaled health. Duration equaled strength. If you couldn't perform, something was broken. Those ideas were fed to us by movies, locker room talk, and a culture obsessed with youth and power. But as we aged, no one handed us a new playbook. No one sat us down and said, "Your body is changing, but your worth as a man isn't tied to what it used to do." I've sat across from men in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s, their eyes brimming with shame, convinced that a weaker erection means they've lost their manhood. What they don't realize is that their body is simply transitioning into a new phase, one where the focus shifts from rigidity to connection, from performance to presence. They still crave intimacy, still yearn for closeness, but they feel lost because no one ever told them that orgasm and erection are not the same thing. Yes, you heard that right. You can experience deep, satisfying release without a full erection. Orgasmic function operates on a separate neurological system, and yet most older men have never been taught this. They've been left to interpret natural changes as failure, when really, it's evolution. Why is this such a well-kept secret? Because society rarely talks about aging men's sexuality. We hear about pills and quick fixes, but not about understanding the body's new rhythm. Doctors avoid the topic, friends don't ask, and most men are too embarrassed to bring it up, even with those closest to them. The result? Generations of men silently wrestling with guilt, confusion, and shame over something entirely normal. Let me tell you about David, a 71-year-old retiree from Ohio I worked with. He came to me defeated, embarrassed, ready to close the door on his sex life. "Doc, it's like the engine's running, but the car won't move," he said. We talked for hours, unraveling decades of unspoken assumptions. I explained that pleasure doesn't vanish, it transforms. With patience and self-compassion, he could still find fulfillment, just in a different way. 3 months later, he called me, his voice lighter than I'd ever heard. "I feel hope again," he said. "I didn't think that was possible." This first secret is so powerful because it frees you from the pressure to perform. When you let go of chasing the erections of your 20s and start exploring what feels good now, a new world opens up. Touch becomes intentional. Time becomes your friend, not your enemy. Intimacy, whether with yourself or a partner, becomes about meaning, not metrics. You're not broken, you're adapting. And that shift isn't a loss. It's an opportunity to rediscover your body in ways you never had time for before. But here's the deeper question. Why don't we talk about this? Why are men left to navigate these changes alone? Because we live in a culture that celebrates youth and sidelines aging, especially when it comes to male sexuality. That silence costs us more than we realize. Our confidence, our joy, our sense of self. It's time to break that silence, not just for ourselves, but for the men coming after us. So, if you've been feeling like something's off, hear this. It's not just you, and it's not too late. Your erection may no longer take center stage, but what's possible when you release that expectation can be even more profound. And speaking of profound, what if I told you that masturbation after 60 isn't just about physical release? It's about your emotions, your stress, and your mental clarity. The next secret will surprise you. Stay with me. Secret 2. Masturbation is emotional and neurological, not just sexual. Most men think of masturbation as a simple act, a quick release, a private instinct, nothing more. But after 35 years working with older men, I've learned something far more complex and vital. Masturbation, especially in your 60s, 70s, and beyond, is not just sexual. It's emotional, it's neurological, it's psychological. And the reason most men don't know this is simple. No one thought we'd still care about pleasure or needed to feel whole as we age. I'll never forget Frank, a 76-year-old former firefighter from Austin, Texas. He came to me not because of physical issues, but because he felt emotionally hollow. "It's like I'm just existing," he said. As we talked, it became clear that masturbation had become more than a habit for him. It was his way of finding peace. It helped him sleep after restless nights, calmed his nerves after stressful days, and gave him a fleeting sense of control in a world that felt chaotic. He called it his reset button, but he'd never connected the dots. He thought he was just clinging to a relic of his youth. He didn't realize this small, private act was serving a much bigger purpose: emotional regulation. Science backs this up. Studies show that many men over 60 turn to masturbation to manage stress, loneliness, grief, or even fear. It's not always about desire. It's about grounding yourself, reclaiming a sense of agency when life feels uncertain. But here's where it gets complicated. Most of us were never taught to examine our emotional lives, let alone how they tie to our sexual habits. We were raised to tough it out, to bury our feelings. So when we touch ourselves out of sadness, restlessness, or longing, we don't understand what's really happening. Without that awareness, we risk turning something potentially healing into something empty or even harmful. Let's talk about your brain for a moment. After orgasm, your brain releases a cocktail of powerful chemicals: oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin. These regulate mood, improve sleep, boost motivation, and even sharpen memory. For older men struggling with depression, anxiety, or insomnia, challenges that become more common with age, this release can be a lifeline. But it only works if you're present, if you're conscious of why you're doing it. Too often, men fall into autopilot. Same routine, same thoughts, same timing. The brain stops responding with the same spark because it's no longer challenged or engaged. Over time, the act becomes a dull habit, draining your energy instead of restoring it. I saw this with another patient, George, a 68-year-old widower from Seattle. After losing his wife, he turned to masturbation not for pleasure, but to fill the void of her absence. It became a nightly ritual, but left him feeling more disconnected than ever. When we worked together, I helped him shift his approach, to slow down, to be present, to ask himself, am I doing this to connect with myself or to escape something I don't want to face? Within weeks, he noticed a change. The act became intentional, and with it, his mood lifted. He started feeling alive again, not just going through the motions. This secret matters because masturbation in older age is often a coping mechanism. When approached with awareness, it can be healthy, even therapeutic. But when it's unconscious, it can hollow you out. Not because the act is wrong, but because you're numbing instead of connecting. Ask yourself, am I choosing this moment consciously, or am I just filling a void? That question can change everything. Why do men know this? Because men's emotional lives, especially as we age, are rarely acknowledged. Society assumes we become stoic, unfeeling rocks, uninterested in vulnerability or pleasure. But that's a lie. We feel more now than we did in our youth. We just learn to hide it. And sometimes, the only place we let it out is in those quiet, private moments alone. So let this be a call to bring awareness to those moments. Honor the emotional and neurological role of your sexuality. Stop pretending touch is just touch. It's memory, it's survival, it's healing. And there's another layer to this that most men overlook, especially those who've been sexually inactive for years. Masturbation doesn't just soothe the soul, it protects the body. The next secret could safeguard your sexual health for decades. Stay with me. Secret 3. The use it or lose it rule is real, but misunderstood. There's a harsh truth most men don't hear until it's too late. When it comes to your sexual function, if you stop using it, you can lose it. But what no one explains is how this happens, or how deeply it impacts not just your sex life, but your entire sense of self. This isn't about fear. It's about understanding the silent changes in your body and why so many men wake up one day asking, why doesn't anything work anymore, when the answer has been hiding in plain sight. As we age, our bodies change. Blood vessels narrow, nerve endings lose sensitivity, and the tissues in the penis become less elastic. These aren't random events. They're biological responses to inactivity. Just like a muscle weakens without exercise, your sexual system begins to shut down when it's not engaged. I've seen it countless times in my practice. A man in his late 60s or 70s finds a new partner after years of solitude. Maybe he's widowed, divorced, or just stepped away from intimacy. He feels desire again, but his body doesn't cooperate. It's not just slower, it's numb, unresponsive, sometimes painful. The worst part? He thinks he's broken, when really, it's the predictable result of long-term disuse. Why aren't men warned about this? Why is this basic truth absent from conversations about aging? Because sexual health after 60 is treated as optional, as if pleasure, function, and closeness don't matter once you're past a certain age. It's a damaging myth that robs men of the chance to maintain something that could stay vibrant with just a little care. Take Michael, a 73-year-old from Florida. He hadn't been intimate with anyone for over a decade after his wife passed. Life had worn him down, and he stopped touching himself altogether. When he met someone new, he was thrilled but devastated when his body didn't respond. He tried pills, creams, even devices. Nothing worked as he hoped. I explained that this wasn't dysfunction, it was disuse. The blood vessels in his penis had narrowed, the nerves had dulled. No one had told him this could happen. With gentle, consistent stimulation, even just with himself, he began to notice a shift. It wasn't instant, but it was real. His body started to remember, and with it, his confidence returned. He felt alive again in ways he thought were gone forever. Masturbation in later years isn't just about pleasure, it's about maintenance. It keeps blood flowing to delicate tissues, signals to your body that this still matters. You're not just preserving a function, you're preserving yourself, your vitality, your emotional grounding. Many men think sexual health only matters if they're in a relationship, but that's a dangerous misunderstanding. You don't need a partner to stay sexually vibrant. You just need presence, curiosity, and consistency. I'll share one more story. Peter, a 70-year-old from rural Wisconsin, hadn't been sexually active for years after a divorce. He assumed his sex life was over, so he stopped trying. When he started dating again, he was shocked by how unresponsive his body had become. Together, we built a routine of mindful self-touch, not for performance, but for health. 6 months later, he told me he felt like he'd reclaimed a part of himself he thought was lost. That's the power of this secret. Daily or weekly attention can keep you ready, not just for a partner, but for yourself. Don't wait for someone else to rediscover your body. Keep that connection with yourself strong, because the moment you let it go, your body begins to forget, and the longer it forgets, the harder it is to bring back. But there's another hidden danger that too many men fall into, one that can sap your drive and disconnect you from real intimacy. The next secret might be the one costing you more than you know. Secret 4. Pornography may be sabotaging your sexual reflexes. When you're alone, especially as an older man, it's easy to slip into habits that feel like a comfort. Late at night, in the stillness of your home in Portland, Oregon, you reach for your phone or laptop. A few clicks and you're watching a scene that promises instant gratification. It's familiar, automatic, and in the moment it works. But over time, something unsettling happens. Your arousal fades faster. The climax feels flat. Your interest in real intimacy, whether with a partner or even your own imagination, starts to vanish. You don't feel broken, but something's off. This is the hidden cost of a habit gone unchecked. Pornography may be silently sabotaging your natural sexual reflexes, and most men have no idea it's happening. This isn't about shame or judgment. It's about science. I've seen it time and again. Men in their 60s, 70s, and 80s confused about why they no longer respond to touch, why their desire for real connection feels muted. They blame age, hormones, or stress. But often, the real culprit is decades of overstimulation from pornography. And unlike in our younger years, the consequences now cut deeper. Your brain has a reward system that tells you what to crave and what feels good. When you watch high-intensity porn, especially in isolation, your brain gets flooded with dopamine, the pleasure chemical. At first, it's exhilarating. But like any drug, your brain adapts. It starts needing more novelty, more intensity, more shock. What used to excite you barely registers. Your arousal threshold climbs. And as it does, your connection to real intimacy fades. Natural cues like memory, imagination, or loving touch no longer spark the same response. This is what I call arousal fatigue, and it's incredibly common among aging men. What makes this so dangerous for older men is that our brains aren't as flexible as they once were. Neuroplasticity, the ability to rewire and form new patterns, slows with age. If you've relied on porn for years, especially as your primary source of stimulation, your brain's wiring becomes rigid. It stops responding to subtle, human moments. I've had patients tell me they can't even get aroused without a screen anymore. They think it's just aging, but it's not. It's conditioning. Let me tell you about John, a 69-year-old widower from Arizona. After his wife passed, he turned to porn every night, not for lust, but for a sense of closeness, any closeness. It was his escape from loneliness. But after a year, he realized he couldn't feel anything with another person, not even emotionally. It was like his senses were walled off. He was numb, frustrated, and lost. We worked together to slowly break that dependency. It wasn't easy. He had to face the discomfort of boredom, of missing that instant hit. But within months, he started reconnecting with his body through breath, touch, and memory. His sensitivity returned, and he felt present again, not trapped in a loop of artificial stimulation. Another patient, Stephen, a 65-year-old from Boston, had a similar story. He'd been using porn for decades, thinking it was harmless. But when he tried to be intimate with a new partner, he felt nothing. No spark, no connection. He thought he was too old for sex. After cutting back on porn and focusing on mindful self-touch, he was amazed at how his desire for real intimacy returned. "It's like I woke up," he told me. "You can retrain your brain. Step away from the screen, even if just for a few weeks. Let your mind rediscover the simple, powerful sensations of your own body. Breathe deeply. Touch with intention, not performance. You'll be amazed at what you still feel, at what's still waiting inside you. Once you break that cycle, your imagination reignites, your sensitivity deepens, and your desire for real connection, whether with yourself or someone else, starts to grow again. This isn't about giving up pleasure. It's about reclaiming it from something that's been quietly stealing it. But there's one final truth that ties all of this together, one that too many men never hear. Masturbation, when done with care, isn't something to hide or feel guilty about. In fact, it might be your greatest ally in aging well. The last secret could change how you live the rest of your life. Secret 5. Doctors won't say it, but masturbation can be your lifeline. In all my years working with men over 60, one sentence breaks my heart every time I hear it. "I didn't know it was still okay to do this at my age." They say it quietly, eyes down, a hint of shame in their voice, as if they've been caught doing something wrong, something inappropriate, even dangerous. But the truth is the exact opposite. Masturbation in older age isn't just okay. It's one of the healthiest things you can do for your body, your mind, and your dignity. The tragedy is that most men never hear this, and the silence becomes the real danger. Why don't doctors talk about this? Because we're trained to fix what's broken, prescribe pills, treat symptoms, perform surgeries, not to nurture what keeps you whole. We're taught to avoid conversations about pleasure, connection, or identity, especially when it comes to aging men. It's as if society assumes you stop needing touch, desire, or intimacy once your hair grays. But that's a lie, and it leaves millions of men wondering if their private habits are shameful or risky. Let's set the record straight. Masturbation, when done with awareness and intention, offers real, measurable benefits for older men. It promotes blood flow to the pelvic region, keeping tissues healthy and flexible. It supports prostate health by clearing out old fluids, potentially reducing the risk of complications. It improves sleep through the release of calming chemicals like oxytocin and serotonin. It boosts mood and fights loneliness, a silent struggle for so many seniors. But it's more than biology, it's about identity. When a man loses touch with his sexuality, he often loses touch with a deeper part of himself. He starts to feel invisible, not just to others, but to himself. He stops seeing himself as someone who deserves pleasure, who still has desires, who still matters in that raw, human way. Slowly, his world shrinks. He doesn't just age, he fades emotionally and spiritually. I worked with Edward, a 72-year-old from rural Minnesota. He hadn't touched himself in nearly 6 years after his wife passed. He told himself that part of his life was over, that it wouldn't be right to seek pleasure alone. Over time, his mood darkened. He stopped sleeping well, grew irritable, and withdrew from friends. It wasn't until we really talked, that he understood the role sexual touch played in his emotional health. I'll never forget the moment he looked at me and said, "I didn't know I was still allowed to be a man." That sentence haunts me because it speaks to the silent burden so many men carry. Another patient, Thomas, a 67-year-old from Atlanta, had a similar experience. After a prostate cancer scare, he stopped all sexual activity, fearing it might worsen his health. But the isolation took a toll. He felt disconnected, not just from his body, but from his sense of purpose. When we discussed how mindful masturbation could support his recovery, physically and emotionally, he was skeptical, but he tried it, and within months, he reported better sleep, less anxiety, and a renewed sense of self. "I feel like I'm back," he said. The need for touch, release, and intimacy doesn't vanish with age, it evolves. When you honor that evolution with curiosity and care, you don't lose yourself. You rediscover yourself in ways that are often deeper than ever. Masturbation isn't a failure of connection. It's a form of it. It's a bridge between your physical body and your emotional needs, a way of saying, I still matter. So if you've been carrying doubts, wondering if your habits are strange or harmful, let them go. What you do in your private space, with respect for yourself, is not only healthy, it's healing. In a world that often overlooks older men, it may be one of the most powerful acts of self-respect you have left. Conclusion: 5 secrets to reclaim your vitality. If you've made it this far, I want to say something from the heart. Thank you. Thank you for staying open, for staying curious, for being willing to explore a topic most men your age were never taught to discuss. That alone makes you part of a rare group. Men who refuse to give up, who won't let silence define the final chapters of their lives. We started this journey by challenging a belief that too many men carry, that their sexuality fades, that their desires must disappear, that masturbation is somehow wrong after 60 or 70. But together, we've uncovered a more honest, more powerful truth. First, we learned that erections may change, but pleasure doesn't have to end. Your body isn't failing, it's evolving. Second, we explored the emotional and neurological layers of masturbation, the stress, the loneliness, the search for peace, and how it's far more than a physical act. Third, we faced the reality of use it or lose it, understanding that inactivity, not age, is what dims your sexual function. Fourth, we confronted the hidden dangers of pornography, how it can rewire your brain and distance you from real intimacy, and how you can reclaim your natural reflexes. Finally, we embrace the truth most doctors won't share. Masturbation can be a lifeline, not just for your body, but for your confidence, your identity, and your well-being. These 5 secrets aren't just advice, they're invitations. Invitations to treat your body with kindness, to stop judging your changes, to stop waiting for permission to feel again. You don't need a partner to stay vibrant. You don't need to perform like you did at 25. You just need to listen to your body, to the signals it still sends, to the quiet moments of aliveness that are still yours to claim. I'm not just saying this as a doctor. I'm saying this as a man who's walked alongside hundreds of men like you. Men who thought they were broken, only to discover they were simply uninformed. Men who feared it was too late, only to realize the truth arrived just in time. You're not too old. You're not out of time. You are not done. You still have access to connection, to pleasure, to healing, if you're willing to reach for it. So wherever you are, whatever your story, I hope you walk away from this video with one clear message. Your body may age, but your right to feel, to touch, to be whole, that never expires. Take that truth with you and let it guide you toward a life that's not just longer, but fuller, richer, and truly yours.